This guide covers all the actions Dawntrail's Gunbreaker learns from level 60 to 100 in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. We start with a tutorial on how to play Gunbreaker at level 60, and then as we work our way to level 100, going over how to make the most of every action the job learns on its way there. In the final summary at level 100, we outline an optimized opener and explain how it leads into the general rotation alongside 2-minute burst considerations. We also touch on the stat priorities of the Gunbreaker. Separately, I also have a video on more general tanking advice for those newer to the role, link in the description. Now then, Royal Guard serves as your tank stance, greatly boosting your enmity generation, causing enemies to prioritize attacking you over others. This should typically always be turned on, unless you have a co-tank who's going to main tank. Always keeping it on is a nice default if you're not sure. Next, No Mercy is a crucial part of the Gunbreaker combat rotation, boosting your damage for 20 seconds once every minute. Gunbreaker relies on this buff to boost the damage of all of its hardest hitting moves to do significant damage in a fight, making the rotation revolve around it. As an ability, often referred to as an off global cooldown or OGCD, No Mercy can be used between your ordinary weapon skills, global cooldowns or GCDs. This is often referred to as weaving. Late weaving No Mercy can sometimes allow you to fit an extra GCD inside the buff window, but this relies on you having some skill speed, which you likely will have as a result of the gear you happen to have as you level up. Late weaving refers to using an OGCD as late as possible between two GCDs without delaying the next GCD. Take note that using any action incurs a bit more than half a second of animation lock where you cannot use anything else. I have a separate video explaining these concepts in more detail, link in the description. Using No Mercy as often as you can is crucial to playing Gunbreaker. Next, let's talk about your basic attack combos. Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, and Solid Barrel serves as your filler single target combo, or 1-2-3 combo. Brutal Shell offers some healing that also additionally shields you for the same amount, and Solid Barrel produces a cartridge for your powder gauge which you use for certain, more powerful attacks. You can store up to 2 cartridges, and preferably you should only use both of them during the No Mercy window. For area of effect, or AoE for short, you have the combo of Demon Slice and Demon Slaughter, where Demon Slaughter produces a cartridge. This combo is superior to your single target combo when there are at least 2 targets present, and so should be used instead in those cases. Although, if healing is an issue, do remember that Brutal Shell heals you. The fact that this combo is only 2 steps also means it generates cartridges for you faster. Now, for your Cartridge Spenders. Burst Strike is a simple big swing with no side effects. If your next weapon skill would produce a cartridge but you already have 2, then you can use Burst Strike to spend it without cancelling the combo. During the No Mercy window, you should try to fit as many Burst Strikes as you can on 1 or 2 targets. With 3 or more targets, it is generally better to skip Burst Strike in favor of more AoE combos, even if it means cartridges go entirely to waste. This then leads us to the Gnashing Fang combo. This combo costs 1 cartridge to start, but then leads into 2 additional steps for free. While the Gnashing Fang combo does not cancel your basic combos, both of your basic combos will cancel your Gnashing Fang combo. The 3 steps of the Gnashing Fang combo are Gnashing Fang, Savage Claw, Wicked Talon, and are performed simply by using the Gnashing Fang button repeatedly, as it automatically changes into the follow-up actions. At this level, the Gnashing Fang combo is worth using with up to 3 targets present. With more targets than that, the AoE combo is usually superior. The cooldown of the Gnashing Fang combo allows you to use it in every No Mercy window, and an extra time 30 seconds later. This gives rise to a smaller burst window every 30 seconds, of course. Let's continue on to your other attacking actions. Whenever you use No Mercy, it turns into Sonic Break for 30 seconds or until you use it. It is a GCD that does a decent amount of damage and includes a damage over time component, or DOT for short. Using Sonic Break during No Mercy will increase the damage of the DOT for its full duration, known as dot snapshotting. On up to 6 targets, it is worth using Sonic Break over the AoE combo if a particular enemy in the pack will survive the full dot duration. Note that there's nothing preventing you from holding Sonic Break until a bit after No Mercy ends if other options are stronger initially. Danger Zone is an OGCD to use between your attacks on a 30-second cooldown. You should use it on cooldown, making sure every second one is in the No Mercy window. Danger Zone is also part of the smaller burst alongside the Gnashing Fang combo. Combining all of this leads us to the rotation that consists of the No Mercy burst window, some filler downtime, the small burst window, some filler downtime, and then repeat. As at the start of a fight you often will have no cartridges, your opening burst will often look slightly different. Now, let's talk about some of the more tank technical stuff. When pulling enemies, you can use Lightning Shot as a ranged option, as its enmity multiplier makes it apply a ridiculous amount of enmity to the target. I recommend pulling with this attack, especially bosses, and if you do, you can weave No Mercy after it, which can sometimes be helpful. Adjust the opener accordingly. Provoke serves as the classic taunting action, placing you at the top of the enmity list and applying a huge amount of enmity to the target. As it is an ability, you can weave this between other actions if you so desire. However, in content with multiple tanks present, I recommend only using Provoke strategically to switch who's tanking the boss. You can combine Lightning Shot and Provoke to easily pull 3 to 4 enemies at range without stopping, which can be very helpful for pulling multiple packs at once. In content with other tanks present, Shirk offers a way to push whoever's currently tanking further ahead, which can be helpful if you prefer to keep Royal Guard on. Trajectory is a gap closer that generates some enmity on your target. It is mainly helpful for positioning as it allows you to quickly dash up to an enemy, however it is not always the best choice to dash up to an enemy for pulling, as it can lead to your team falling significantly behind. It is, however, a decent option for engaging enemies and generating some initial enmity, and for repositioning in a fight. Take note, it can only be used to dash to enemies. Finally, let's talk about defensive cooldowns. In Final Fantasy XIV, defensive cooldowns stack multiplicatively, which means using multiple at the same time diminishes the value of each of them. I have a separate video in the description that explains this in more detail. In most regular content, tanks can survive perfectly fine with just one appropriately powered cooldown running at a time, which gives rise to defensive cooldown cycling, keeping at least one defensive cooldown running on you at all times while fighting mobs. Of course, there are exceptions where you need multiple defensive cooldowns at once, but keeping a rule of thumb to only use one at a time is a good starting point. A specific cycling sequence also does not need to be strictly followed, and you can mix and match your cooldowns as you need. If you do wall-to-wall pulls, then you can typically expect 1 minute cooldowns to be available for every pull, while anything with a cooldown longer than that will only be available for every second pull. As such, it is best to only use one big cooldown for each pull if you can get away with it. As an example of a defensive cooldown cycling sequence, you could use Nebula, then when that runs out, Reprisal, and then Camouflage. Then for the second pull, use Rampart, then Reprisal again, then Arm's Length. Unlike most of the other cooldowns, Arm's Length is only effective as a defensive cooldown against regular enemies, but can be immensely powerful due to its attack speed reducing effect. The rest of the cooldowns simply have varying degrees of direct damage reduction. Gunbreakers also have access to Aurora, which serves as a potent heal over time effect. This can be very effective if your healer is having a hard time keeping up with the damage, but notably, Aurora can also be used on other players, which can be useful to save someone in a tough spot. Finally, Super Polite is your invulnerability cooldown. While it does make you invulnerable, it also costs you all but 1 point of your HP. For this reason, you should preferably only use this when you're about to die anyway, but if possible, try to plan it with your healer so they don't waste cooldowns themselves due to the timing. A notorious example being using it just a moment after the White Mage uses Benediction to fully heal you. Also take note that Low Blow can be helpful to stun regular enemies when needed, and Interject can be used to flat out interrupt interruptible actions, which are signified by a red, pulsing and flashing cast bar. Now, to summarize at level 60, let's cover an actual boss fight opener and rotation. Make sure that you have Royal Guard active, unless there is another tank who's using their tank stance, in which case this can be optional. As you run up to the boss, pull with Lightning Shot, which can also be optional, and then use Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, and Late Weave No Mercy. Then use Solid Barrel, weaving Danger Zone, Gnashing Fang, Sonic Break, Savage Claw, and Wicked Talon. Then use Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, Solid Barrel, finishing with Burst Strike. If your GCD is 2.48 or slower, you can instead weave No Mercy after Solid Barrel so the final Burst Strike still fits inside. In this situation, it isn't necessary to late weave No Mercy anyway. This then leads to the general rotation. Gunbreaker's rotation revolves around fitting as much damage in your No Mercy window as possible, and then making the most of the few damage cooldowns you have that also come up outside of this burst, with the Gnashing Fang combo and Danger Zone in particular. While everything is on cooldown, you simply go through your 1-2-3 combos and only use Burst Strike outside of No Mercy if your next combo step is Solid Barrel and you have full cartridges. No Mercy should then be used on cooldown, which means that exactly when in your 1-2-3 combo it comes up can vary, and the best way to go about it is to consider a priority list. Whenever you weave No Mercy, use your weapon skills in the following order. 1. Gnashing Fang, 2. Sonic Break, 3. Savage Claw and Wicked Talon, 4. Burst Strike, 5. 1-2-3 combos. While doing this, make sure to use Danger Zone in between weapon skills for the extra free damage. For AoE adjustments, use Demon Slice and Demon Slaughter in place of the 1-2-3 combo on 2 or more targets, in place of Burst Strike on 3 or more targets, and in place of the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 or more targets. Consider also skipping Sonic Break on 4 or more targets, although if you have a very healthy target that will survive the entire dot, Sonic Break is worth using on up to 6 targets. With that, let's continue on past level 60. At level 62, you learn the ability Bow Shock. This AoE attack's cooldown always lines up perfectly with No Mercy, and so it should be added to the No Mercy window, regardless of the number of targets. At level 64, you learn the ability Heart of Light, which reduces magic damage taken by your party. If you see the boss start casting an attack that sounds like a raid-wide AoE attack, use Heart of Light. To identify whether an attack is actually magic, take note of the icon next to the damage number when you're hit. A purple staff or wand indicates magic damage, while a blue sword indicates physical damage. A green POW icon means that it is so-called unique damage, which typically ignores specific damage reduction like Heart of Light. At level 68, you learn the ability Heart of Stone, which is the Gunbreaker's short cooldown defensive option. It can also be used on other players, and when used in that way, it actually copies your Brutal Shell Shield, if you have one, to the target, which is neat, but not something you should plan around. Because of the short cooldown of Heart of Stone, I recommend using it as your first defensive cooldown in your order on large pulls. For dangerous tank busters on bosses, Heart of Stone's cooldown is so short that you can reliably use it alongside another defensive cooldown if you need it. Alternating between Heart of Stone and other cooldowns also enables you to maintain a defensive cooldown for a really long time. At level 70, you learn the ability Continuation. Whenever you use a step in your Gnashing Fang combo, Continuation itself turns into a follow-up OGCD that you can and should use immediately for extra free damage. In particular, after Gnashing Fang, it turns into Jugular Rip, after Savage Claw, it turns into Abdomen Tear, and after Wicked Talon, it turns into Eye Gouge. This changes your single target rotation in the way that it adds 3 additional OGCDs to every Gnashing Fang combo, which does also affect your No Mercy windows a bit. With Continuation's bonus damage, the Gnashing Fang combo is better to use than the AoE 1-2 combo on up to 5 targets. I recommend targeting the healthiest mob in the pack when doing so, if you do so. Since level 60, Heart of Light has been added as a raid cooldown, and Heart of Stone offers a very reliable way to greatly expand the amount of defensives you can access in a fight. For damage, Bow Shock and Continuation adds a bunch of extra OGCDs to your arsenal. For your opener and your burst, make sure to weave Bow Shock as early as possible where it fits in No Mercy. And make sure to weave Continuation in each step of the Gnashing Fang combo. It is typically only possible to at most double weave, meaning 2 OGCDs per GCD, so it is a good idea to plan around this fact. At level 72, you learn the weapon skill Faded Circle, which is an AoE alternative to Burst Strike that beats it on 2 targets. It also beats the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 targets. Naturally, fitting as many Faded Circles as possible in the No Mercy window is optimal. Outside of No Mercy, use Faded Circle if your next GCD will generate a cartridge you don't have space for, just like with Burst Strike. At level 76, you learn the ability Bloodfest, which lets you instantly fill up all your cartridges, although it does require a target, and will put you in combat with said target. This allows you to have a full set of cartridges in your opener, and 2 extra cartridges on every second No Mercy window after that. In your opener, you can use Bloodfest immediately after Lightning Shot, although in subsequent bursts, placing it during No Mercy can let you use more cartridges than normal. At level 80, Danger Zone is permanently upgraded to Blasting Zone. This does not change how you use it, although it nearly triples its potency. This is of course compensation for losing the cooler name. Since level 70, Faded Circle is introduced as an AoE Cartridge Spender, which takes priority over Burst Strike on 2 targets and over the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 or more targets. Bloodfest is also introduced as a way to max out your powder gauge both for your opener and every 2 minutes. So every second, No Mercy. Finally, Danger Zone is upgraded to Blasting Zone for a large potency boost every 30 seconds. For the 2-minute bursts where Bloodfest is available, you should prioritize Burst Strikes over Savage Claw and Wicked Talon, such that you can empty the powder gauge quickly so Bloodfest can be used as fast as possible. And then, once Bloodfest has been spent, make sure to finish the Gnashing Fang combo. Sonic Break should still be used right after Gnashing Fang as you are able. For an opener example, pull with Lightning Shot and weave Bloodfest. Then use Keenage, Brutal Shell, then late weave No Mercy. Then use Gnashing Fang weaving Jugular Rip, then Sonic Break weaving Blasting Zone and Bow Shock, then Burst Strike, then Savage Claw, weaving Abdomen Tear, Weakened Talon, weaving Eye Gouge, then Solid Barrel, Burst Strike, and then finish with Keen Edge. If you have some skill speed, late weaving No Mercy should also let you fit Brutal Shell at the end. It is worth mentioning that early weaving Blasting Zone may cause you to have to early weave Blasting Zone again during the small burst, late weaving a continuation. If you find this confusing, simply flip the order of Battle Shock and Blasting Zone in the opener such that Blasting Zone becomes a late weave instead. At level 82, Heart of Stone is permanently upgraded to Heart of Corundum, which increases its duration to 8 seconds and adds the additional effect, Clarity of Corundum, which is identical to the original damage reduction effect, although on only a 4-second duration. It also adds Catharsis of Corundum, which lasts 20 seconds and heals you a significant amount either if you drop below half HP or if the timer ends. This massive upgrade does not change that much in how you use the ability since you would already want to use it extremely aggressively. Perhaps the situational healing would give you reason to use it even more aggressively. Notably, if a party member is below half HP, you can use Heart of Corundum to instantly heal them if you don't need the cooldown for yourself. In Endwalker and Dawntrail leveling dungeons, you may find that enemies hit surprisingly hard, and rather than fitting Heart of Corundum between other options, you may sometimes need to combine it with other options at the start of a large pull. At level 84, your 1-2-3 combo gets a significant potency boost, however, not significant enough to change anything for your rotation. Additionally, Aurora gets an extra charge, so you can use this a lot more freely, and even save a charge for when you really need it. At level 86, you learn the Enhanced Continuation trait, which causes Burst Strike to also activate Continuation, allowing you to use Hyper Velocity. This significantly boosts the damage value of Burst Strike, however, this does not change anything about your rotation, except for adding Continuation after every Burst Strike, of course. At level 88, your powder gauge is expanded to hold 3 cartridges instead of 2. Also, Bloodfest is upgraded to grant an additional cartridge to match, however, despite the icon existing with 3 cartridges, Bloodfest's icon is not replaced. I have to live with this knowledge, and now you do too if you didn't already. For your No Mercy window, this of course means you can carry an extra cartridge into the burst, and Bloodfest also grants an extra, allowing you to use at least 6 cartridges. However, this slightly overwhelming amount of cartridges this leads to is not too important to optimize around, as at level 90, you learn the weapon skill Double Down, which on a minute cooldown, perfectly lining up with No Mercy, does a huge amount of damage with an AoE component. It also uniquely costs 2 cartridges instead of 1. This should be used in every No Mercy window. Naturally, Double Down should be used on any number of targets, as it is your strongest attack for all occasions, including birthday parties. In fact, especially birthday parties if you replace the explosions with fireworks. Since level 80, Heart of Stone got upgraded to Heart of Corundum, your 1-2-3 combo got a potency boost, your powder gauge got an extra slot, and Bloodfest was upgraded to Fillet 2. Burst Strike now also has continuation, and Double Down is added as a new massive strike. In your opener, Double Down simply replaces a Burst Strike, and I do recommend using Double Down early in any burst to get it out there. Another detail is that, as Burst Strike has an OGCD follow-up now, it may sometimes be handy to adjust your burst in such a way that Burst Strike is not last. Assuming your target will stay alive for the foreseeable future, you can push Sonic Break really far back in the sequence as long as No Mercy lasts. On the other hand, if the boss is dying, pushing Sonic Break to the front may be preferable. At level 92, Nebula is permanently upgraded to Great Nebula, making it reduce damage even more, and also increasing your maximum HP by 20% for the duration, and healing you for the same amount. This does not change how you use it, but it does make it a lot more powerful. At level 94, Rampart is upgraded to also increase healing received in its duration, and also, basically all of your single target attacks get a potency boost. Notably, this makes your 1-2-3 combo superior on 2 targets, so you should switch to the AoE options on 3 or more targets. At level 96, Faded Circle is upgraded to also activate continuation, turning it into Faded Brand. This of course should always be weaved afterwards for more damage. This does not change how you use Faded Circle, however. At level 98, Reprisal is upgraded to last 15 seconds instead of 10. This does not change how you use it. At level 100, Bloodfest is upgraded to also grant you Ready to Rain for 30 seconds, or until it is spent, and turns Bloodfest into Rain of Beasts, which is a weapon skill that deals amazing damage with an AoE component, that leads into a Step 2 and Step 3 combo of its own. Combined, this combo does a ludicrous amount of damage. Take note that this Lionheart combo breaks the Gnashing Fang combo and vice versa, so you should make sure to finish one before doing the other. As Gnashing Fang is limited by a cooldown and the Lionheart combo has a 30-second timer to be used in, I recommend doing the Gnashing Fang combo first. To round off, let's first talk about an opener, followed by general rotation, as well as how this works with the 2-minute burst. And finally, let's briefly touch on stat priorities on gear. Gunbreaker's opener and rotation can vary somewhat depending on your skill speed, and getting the most optimal rotation can get quite specific on this. With that said, let's begin with an opener that should work decently regardless of your GZD. Let's begin. Pull with Lightning Shot weaving Bloodfest, and then use Keen Edge, and if you intend to use a gem draft, late weave it here. Then use Brutal Shell and weave No Mercy. Then use Gnashing Fang weaving Jugular Rip and Bowel Shock. Then use Double Down weaving Blasting Zone, and then Sonic Break. Then finish the Gnashing Fang combo remembering to weave continuations, and then follow it up with Reign of Beasts, Noble Blood, and Lionheart. If your GZD is 2.47 or faster, then it is important that you late weave No Mercy, as this will allow you to sneak in a solid barrel at the end of the opener. This then leads to the general rotation. Gunbreaker's rotation revolves around the No Mercy burst, downtime filler sequences, and the small bursts in between. In particular, starting after the opener, the rotation sequence goes downtime, small burst, downtime, No Mercy burst, downtime, small burst, downtime, No Mercy Bloodfest burst. Repeat. The No Mercy Bloodfest burst naturally aligns with the 2-minute burst. The downtime filler is signified by 1-2-3 combos and pretty much nothing else unless you have Solid Barrel as your next GZD and you're full on cartridges, in which case Burst Strike should be used. The small burst is signified by Gnashing Fang coming off cooldown and you simply use it immediately. This also applies to Blasting Zone. Remember, using the Gnashing Fang combo does not break the basic 1-2-3 combo, but using the basic 1-2-3 combo will break the Gnashing Fang combo. Optimally, the No Mercy burst window starts exactly when No Mercy comes off cooldown, regardless of where you are in your 1-2-3 combo, and to some extent, regardless of your cartridge count. If you have a GZD faster than 2.47, it is important that you late weave No Mercy, but if your GZD is slower than that, then it is not significant. During the No Mercy window, you should prioritize your GZDs as follows. 1. Gnashing Fang. 2. Sonic Break with an asterisk. 3. Double Down. 4. Savage Claw and Wicked Talon. 5. Lionheart combo. 6. Burst Strikes. And 7. 1-2-3 combos. The asterisk for Sonic Break is that if the exact No Mercy window will end up with one Burst Strike at the very end, pushing Sonic Break back to the very end of the burst so Burst Strike and Hyper Velocity get to benefit from No Mercy is beneficial, assuming of course Sonic Break also gets in. In situations where No Mercy is started with less than max cartridges, it may be beneficial to prioritize Solid Barrel so that you have for both Gnashing Fang and Double Down. For the regular No Mercy window, the odd minute burst, optimally you should expect to have a full Gnashing Fang combo, Sonic Break, Double Down, and 3 to 4 fillers, of which will include Burst Strike and 1-2-3 combos depending on where you happen to be in your 1-2-3 combo at the very start of No Mercy. The odd minute burst requires 3 cartridges, but will typically generate 1 cartridge during it. For the No Mercy Bloodfest window, the even or 2-minute burst, you should expect to have a full Gnashing Fang combo, Sonic Break, Double Down, and the Lionheart combo in full inside it. While Bloodfest is used early in the opener, it is somewhat common and expected that Bloodfest makes more sense to use during No Mercy so you can spend 3 cartridges and then reload. Although, alternatively, if it happens to line up better and Bloodfest is ready anyway, there's nothing preventing you from spamming Burst Strikes just before the 2-minute burst so you have space to Bloodfest straight back to 3. It is simply a matter of whether you want to spend cartridges before No Mercy and exit with 0, or save and exit with 3. If your GZD is 2.47 or faster, you would also have 1 extra GZD in the burst, meaning you might really want to exit with cartridges, as this would allow you to finish, after the Lionheart combo, with Burst Strike Hypervelocity into Sonic Break. It is possible, if not an outright regular occurrence, that you may end up with your next GZD being Solid Barrel, so you have to Burst Strike right as No Mercy becomes available. If this is the case, simply perform that Burst Strike and lead your burst with Solid Barrel to adjust. For the Bloodfest burst, you can instead, for example, use Double Down and then Bloodfest to get back to 3. If you have the faster GZD of at least 2.47, you may also simply Solid Barrel just the same. For AoE adjustments, on 2 or more targets, replace Burst Strike with Faded Circle. On 3 or more targets, replace your 1-2-3 combo with your 1-2 AoE combo. On 4 or more targets, skip the Gnashing Fang combo and Sonic Break too. This also simplifies your no mercy windows more and more the more targets there are, but notably, Double Down will always be way better than Fated Circle. All of your OGCD options, Blasting Zone, Bow Shock and Bloodfest, as well as the Lionheart combo really, should still be used as they are on single target. Very aggressively. Finally, regarding stat priorities, take note that in nearly every single case, item level beats out optimal secondary stats. This means you should always prioritize gear with higher item level as long as it has strength on it. After that, Gunbreaker's stat priority is critical hit, then direct hit and determination, and finally tenacity. Direct hit and determination are almost identical in value, however, prioritizing whichever one you have less of tends to have a bigger impact on your damage output. As direct hit never occurs naturally on tank gear, they will always be ever so slightly superior to determination to meld with materia. Tenacity increases damage output less than the other options, but does reduce damage taken substantially. This is generally not needed in most content, however, if you are trying to overcome a particularly difficult fight and believe it might help, it might be worth trying. It is, however, not a common choice. Skill speed is an interesting stat for Gunbreakers, as your burst and your resource generation is heavily impacted by whether you have a GCD of 2.48 or slower, or 2.47 or faster. This cutoff point occurs because the faster GCD allows a 9th GCD during No Mercy. Another particular breakpoint is 2.40, as it will allow you to fit an additional GCD per minute, primarily making your resource generation more flexible. Overall, Gunbreaker's skill speed preference is such that optimized builds can run with whatever maximizes critical hit and determination on gear, and if that includes 0 skill speed, then 2.50 will be recommended, and if it does include some skill speed, then that might be most effective. This is to say that Gunbreaker's skill speed preference is heavily dictated by the gear options at any given tier. However, this also means that the damage difference isn't insanely big, and that means you can very freely choose to prioritize skill speed heavily to reach a specific GCD point that you like. I recommend still trying to prioritize critical hit over skill speed while you aim for your preference. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Ko-Fi, link in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, back in Shadowbringers when the job was added, the Gnashing Fang combo was composed of 3 separate buttons. And continuation. Meaning you had Gnashing Fang, Savage Claw and Wicked Talon as 3 separate attacks. Also, before Dawntrail, Gunbreaker's trajectory instead was Rough Divide, which did roughly the same thing, except it also did damage, making it a core part of every burst window.